What is going on, guys? You're tuned into the Monday Coffee Show. I'm James.
And I'm Travis.
And today we'll be talking about mental health with a very special guest.
A few months ago, we talked about, I think this might have been from our first month of making the show. We talked about bullying, we talked about some stuff, and James and I have kind of a capacity of what we know, so we decided to bring in someone who has maybe a little bit more expertise. So we're going to welcome Amber, who's going to come sit with us with her tea. There we go.
Hi.
So welcome. So Amber, if you could, let us know who are you? What do you do? What's going on?
I'm Amber. I work in social work at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. So I have a lot of experience with mental health. And I'm married. Is that something else you want to know?
Ooh, yes. I mean, of course. Congratulations. That's exciting. Married is, it's a good way to be.
It's kind of like a totem pole: married, relationship, single.
You technically were like my best man. So there you go.
So very cool. So I mean, the last time we were here, James and I were kind of sharing our own personal stories and a few things where we were like, hey, maybe like the way that I feel about this is maybe a little left over from that, and is there what can kind of like be the effects there? Like how can your adulthood be kind of like affected by and we can generalize this as like any sort of trauma.
Yeah.
How can that change as you become an adult?
Well, so there's this study called the ACEs study, which is Adverse Childhood Experiences. It's a free study, so if you want to, you can actually just Google ACEs study and do it. It's like a short survey. So they ask you a variety of questions like, has your family been divorced? Have you ever been bullied? Have you ever seen violence? And depending on your score on this, so the more boxes you check off, the more likely you are to have experienced some form of trauma. And as you get older, trauma just kind of forms into different diagnoses. So it can go from, as a kid you were sad because maybe you saw your parents get divorced, and then in adulthood you have an increased anxiety with relationships because you are afraid that you will in fact get divorced. And
Yes.
then depending on if you have children, you will pass that stressor off into your child, because if you seem agitated with your husband or wife, and those things kind of transform into their adverse childhood experience. So it's a very interesting kind of segue into how childhood transforms into adulthood and then goes right back into that cycle of trauma. Did I answer your question? Or did I just
No, totally. No.
I'm so sorry.
I mean, you did both. This is good. That's the good kind of interview question where you answer the question and you lead us into another topic, and you're doing great.
Sorry. Encyclopedia over here. Apologize.
It's perfectly good. We asked for expertise and you're bringing it. So let's say I'm an adult who's been bullied, and so I was bullied in school, and so part of that makes me a little nervous when I am in school, and changes the way that I interact with students around me. As an adult who's going back to school, this is an actual personal story. I'm not even hypothetically doing this right now. So how and I've worked in schools, but so you mentioned passing on to kids. Is there a way for me as an adult to help them feel very comfortable in school?
Yeah.
We don't need to do a personal therapy session either, but I just as a curious question, because most of our audience are adults.
Yes. Well, don't worry, can't do a personal. We won't have enough time for that, and we're not on billable time. So I can say that if you were bullied in school, and then if you have any anxiety into going into the classroom already, so what kind of capacity are you going to be going into with working with children? Are you working with children, or are you just going
I,
back to school?
I have, so those are actually separate things. I've been going back to school as an adult to like get into the TV world, but also some of my day jobs that I've worked over the last 6 years have been in schools with young people, and still like I work at a bike shop mostly with young people.
Yeah.
So there's that, and those are actually separate because I love working with kids. Some of the like peers around me sometimes are like,
Yeah. Well, I can say that depending on how you kind of take on that feeling of like, I was previously bullied when I went to school, and then walking into a new classroom or a new learning environment, sometimes I know people are hesitant. They're hesitant who they sit by. They're hesitant to where they sit in the classroom. I can say that I was bullied when I was younger, so I tend to sit very close to the door, because as soon as I feel like something is overwhelming in the room, I leave. I come back, but I leave. So, you know, everyone's coping mechanisms are different. Everyone's awareness to those things, those forms of like traumatizing experiences are very different. So like I quickly realize why I sit by the door, so sometimes I try to move 2 seats away from the door to give other people a chance. But then I know there are other people who will maybe put like a bag next to them to just kind of set that tone of aggression, like, hey, no, you're not doing this today.
Okay.
Not today, Satan. No. And honestly, that is just a form, like a very small form of aggression that is a kind of a dual symptom of trauma. It just kind of goes with it sometimes. Stress is like that anyways. There's just like, when you feel stress, you do very interesting things. Some things can't really be explained. But I do encourage that if people are going into environments that remind them of a trauma or remind them of a stressor, that they try to be aware of it. Because the longer you stay unaware of it, the longer you're going to do things that push others away. So it kind of sets you up for a form of it.
So how often would you say there are cases where it's like, say a child has like seen some sort of like some type of trauma or I guess like abuse in a way, and they don't realize how much it affects them, and then when they get older in their relationship, they kind of mimic those those characteristics that they were like seeing. Does that happen often? Because like sometimes people kind of put things in the back of their mind and they just kind of like forget about it, but then when they're older, it's like, oh, remember that all this stuff happened.
Yeah, and I mean, it's very common, especially with children who have experienced trauma at a very young age, to suppress those memories, but then subconsciously you'll still act out kind of scenario. So it just depends on the type of stressor. So if it was a sexual trauma, it tends to kind of develop into adulthood depending on how they were traumatized. So if they've watched it, they may also be kind of hesitant to going into intimate relationships or being in intimate relationships that are abusive, because they think that that is the appropriate form of love or affection. And then if it's kind of aggressive trauma and maybe physical abuse, they tend to be the abuser in many cases after being the victim. That's kind of just like a cycle that I think more and more in psychology we're becoming aware of. So it's still very new, but it's old at the same time. I think as we kind of study and develop other ways of kind of addressing those traumas, we realize there are other symptoms that we weren't really aware of. And even just in traditional adult relationships, heterosexual or homosexual, physical abuse or domestic abuse usually stems from some sort of trauma before. It doesn't come out of nowhere. It's not like someone just woke up one day and said, oh, I'm just going to punch my boyfriend out. Like, no, it's probably because they saw it or they felt it. And a lot of people don't want to talk about it because they think that that's reliving it. But your actions actually are reliving it. So I'm not saying go up to someone who is being aggressive and say, tell me what happened. Don't do that.
You're probably not qualified for that. Like,
yes.
you might be, I would not
I wouldn't
be.
even go into it that way. I'd be like, you did
Because
what?
you're qualified for this and you know what to do.
Yeah. So.
I mean, I think that's a good point too, because like you said, a lot of people don't like to talk about it, especially like in minority communities. People kind of view therapy as like, oh, if you have to go to therapy, it's like something wrong with you. But like people don't see that a lot of people can benefit from it. So like, simply, it's different talking to like an unbiased, non-judgmental to a certain extent like opinion as opposed to like talking to like somebody that's your friend.
Yeah.
Because I mean, even if you're honest with each other, it's still that, I guess, that inkling to be supportive. So it's like no matter what you do, it's kind of like, oh well, you did this, but it's okay. Instead of being like, no, this is wrong. This is why you should fix it. Things like that.
Yeah. I think I have so much to say about minority communities and their stigma against mental health as a whole. I'm going to use my mom as an example. I remember when I was like 15 and I like just came out to my mom and I was like, Mom, I'm like really stressed out. I think I'm depressed. I need to go see someone. She's like, no, those pills make you kill yourself. That's why. And you know, there's no other follow-up. There's no like scientific reasoning behind it. It's just in our community, you deal with sadness, you deal with stress in your home. You don't take it outside the home. What's your business is your business, and that's end of discussion.
And sometimes it's not even like dealt with. It's sometimes just like we'll get over it.
Yeah.
And then it's just like left at that.
Go to your room and sit down and think about that and fix it. Like no, that's wrong.
Just fix it. Just don't listen. You're depressed. Have some ice cream. You'll be fine. You'll be fine.
Yeah, and then you have all these children dealing with obesity, and we're still trying to figure that one out. It's like, well.
I think there's also like, and I don't think this is like stuck in the minority community. I actually think this is a very wealthy suburban white thing right now. Is there's this like really weird thing right now with mental health where they see psychology is great, like go see a therapist, like that's cool, but like don't do the pill thing, right? Because and granted, I understand where they're coming from, where like there were so many kids who were mis or overdiagnosed for stuff and like were like super drugged up because their parents just didn't want to deal with them. Like that was definitely a problem, but I don't think as prevalent a problem as people think with psychiatry. And then so like you'll see like these like weird memes of like, you don't need antidepressant pills, just go walk in the woods. And it's like, yeah, cool, that works for you, but some people really need those antidepressant pills. Like,
yeah.
Like that's how they're living.
Yeah.
I think it's all about finding like the right therapist too, because when I was younger, I did go to one once, but the first thing he did, like you said, was try to be like, oh well, take this for depression. It's like, wait a minute, I'm like 13? Well, no, I think it was like 14 or 15, and I was like, you're just gonna just start prescribing drugs? Like, I'm good. I don't take any kind of like medication or nothing, so I'm just like, I'll pass on that. I'll work on it on my own or talk to somebody else, but no. Yeah.
I think a part of that also stems from like psychology beginning as a form of talk therapy only, and I think it's just been so many years and ages, I want to say, like just living in talk therapy. They're like, all right, now we finally have a quick fix. Let's give it to everyone. Let's just throw it like Skittles. And like, and I think that puts people off from psychiatry. And to be honest, sometimes I feel, this is my own personal opinion, don't need to take it with you. But I do feel that some people who see psychiatrists, if that's not enough, like if you've been seeing the same psychologist for 3 years and nothing is changing for you, you may just want to see that psychiatrist one time. One session, see how it works, and if, within 30 days, those pills don't work for you, or whatever the case may be, fine, don't do the follow-up. You can continue with psychology or, the psychiatrist or psychologist. You don't need to pick one or the other. Like, the services are available for you to have as much as you need or can afford. That's also another issue.
I think, so I'm going through an interesting thing right now where I'm trying to find a therapist, which is a really great time with the health insurance that I have right now because it's very limited, because they're kind of like forced. Like I think that plan wouldn't normally have mental health care, but because the ACA mandates it, they're like, all right, fine, we'll have this doctor and this doctor, fine, whatever. And so I'm struggling with that a little bit, but what's weird is I found a psychiatrist that I want to go see, and they were like, all right, cool, so you have to go get a diagnosis from this neuropsychiatrist first. And so I talked to him, I was like, yeah, so what's involved in that? And they were like, we're going to do a brain scan. And I was like, what? Like, that sounded so foreign to me that I was like, well, this is weird. And I was like, I just have to remember, like, it's cool, like, stuff changes. But that was really strange to hear.
Yeah.
Like, hey, we're not going to, like, talk to you about symptoms. We're not going to look through the big, like, diagnosis book that has a name that I normally know. I'm forgetting.
DSM.
That one. Instead of like kind of like checking the box, that they're going to like scan my brain and look at it and go, oh yeah, no, this is what's happening. This is why this makes sense. Like, this is cool. This is like kind of what we know about this, and like maybe move forward from there, which sounds really science fiction to me. And so is a little off-putting, but like it's weird because like I do feel like I have to just kind of like maybe just trust that a little bit because
I mean, that's very advanced. You might want to actually thank your insurance company because that is a service that most people don't actually get to have.
Really?
Most people don't get to actually have the authorization for the neuropsych scan. That's usually a wait list of almost 2 years for most insurance companies because they make you actually do the therapy, the psychiatrist first, and then you can qualify for neuropsych.
Interesting.
And neuropsych is very advanced, and the reasoning behind the brain scan is because your chemical levels in your brain set off at certain points during different stimuli and stressors. So if they show you something of like fighting and it dings happiness, they're gonna be like, all right, maybe he is a serial killer, or and it kind of it's definitely more scientific, so therefore it will be a lot more correct. And there's less room for error with prescribing if you decide to go that route. Because then they know kind of where your brain, like where your interactions are, so that the medications aren't setting you off in the wrong way.
Yeah, I know I've had friends who have had to kind of go through this like, hey, we're going to try this for about 2 weeks. If it works, we'll continue doing that. If it doesn't work, call me.
Yeah.
And so like there is that weird game. So like I was like that's a cool perspective because to me it's so foreign that I'm like this is just really weird and strange, but like that's a good thing to know.
If you don't know the system, you think that they're making you jump through hoops when they're actually giving you a shortcut for
that's really weird because I remember being like, I have to wait like 2 months for this guy. Like, oh, this is terrible. But I mean, it's a change that perspective. So that's very cool. Thank you for coming to talk to us. I think we're a little tight on time. This is kind of what happened with the last time we were talking about this kind of thing, which is like we just there's so much to get into, and it's hard in the like time of what is not like a YouTube video. But really, thank you for coming by and talking to us. This has been very cool, and I've certainly learned a lot. I'm sure James has as well.
Of course.
But we're gonna have some of the resources that Amber talked about, like in the description and like some stuff like that, so that you can kind of look up some of the stuff that we were talking about, like what is the DSM, what is the ASEX? ASIS. There you go. That was it's a different thing entirely.
Coming for that. I was just
kidding. So we're gonna have those resources below, and then if you have comments or questions, we can patch Amber in for some answers. So very cool. So, but like I said, thank you very much, and until next week, enjoy your coffee.